You know, in the world of AI, there's this constant battle, right? On one hand, you're always pushing to make models bigger, smarter, more powerful. But on the other hand, you're desperately trying to keep them stable so they don't just collapse during training. For years, it's felt like you have to pick one. But a really fascinating new paper from DeepSeek suggests we might finally get to have our cake and eat it too. And to get why this is such a big deal, we need to stop thinking about AI as just code and start thinking about it like a highway. See, it all comes down to how information flows inside these massive neural networks. You've got two choices. Path A is your safe, reliable, single-lane road. It gets the job done, information gets from point A to point B, but it's slow. There's a limit to how much it can handle. Then there's Path B, the dream. A massive, multi-lane superhighway promising incredible speed and power. The problem? Without any rules, it's total chaos. It's a recipe for disaster, a pileup of signals that leads to a total system breakdown. All right, so to really appreciate this new breakthrough, we've got to rewind a little bit. Let's go back to the original design, that first single-lane highway that really made modern AI possible in the first place. So back in 2015, this game-changing idea called residual connections came along. Before this, trying to build really deep networks was a nightmare. The signal would either fade into nothing or just explode. Residual connections created this brilliant little shortcut. You could think of it like a direct elevator for information. The formula is super simple. The output is just the original input X plus whatever the new stuff the network layer learned. That simple plus X made sure the main signal always got through, no matter how deep the network got. This was our trusty, reliable single-lane highway. But you know how it is. Reliable isn't always enough. The hunger for more and more powerful AI demanded a bigger road. And that led to a really ambitious but, well, deeply flawed attempt to build that superhighway. This new idea was called Hyper-Connections, or HC. The thinking made sense, right? Let's just widen that single lane into a bunch of parallel lanes, let the information mix and flow in all sorts of new, complex ways. More lanes, more power. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as you can see from that graph on the right, everything. It was a highway with no speed limits, no lane markers, no rules at all. The result? A catastrophic signal pileup. We're talking signals getting amplified by 3,000 times. The models would just completely break. The superhighway was less of a road and more of a death trap. Okay, so this is where the story gets really good. The team at DeepSeek looked at this smoking wreck of a superhighway and had a brilliant realization. The answer wasn't to tear it down. The answer was to install some guardrails. Their insight was just so elegant. They figured out that the multi-lane design itself wasn't the enemy. The chaos was. The complete lack of rules. So they decided to engineer a set of strict mathematical guardrails that could tame the information flow, all while keeping the power of that superhighway design. Now, the official name for these guardrails sounds a little intimidating. It's called the Birkhoff polytope. But don't let the name scare you. The idea is actually incredibly simple. It's just a special grid of numbers that has to follow two very basic rules. Rule 1, all the numbers have to be positive. Easy enough. Rule 2, and this is the magic trick, every single row and every single column has to add up to exactly 1. That's it. So what does making the math follow these rules actually do? Well, it turns that chaotic, explosive signal crash into a perfectly controlled, predictable blend. The output just becomes a weighted average of all the inputs. No new signal gets created out of thin air, and nothing gets lost. The total amount of information is perfectly conserved. It just gets redistributed. It's kind of like mixing paint. You can combine red and blue to get purple, but the total amount of paint you have at the end is the same as what you started with. And what's really cool is how they actually enforce this rule. They use this beautiful, surprisingly simple algorithm from way back in 1967 called Sinkhorn knop. You just take your messy, chaotic numbers and you do two things over and over. First, you force all the columns to add up to 1. Then, you force all the rows to add up to 1. You just repeat that a few times, and like magic, the whole thing snaps into place inside that safe, stable space. A decades-old algorithm holding the key to a next-gen AI problem. How cool is that? Okay, so the theory is fantastic. A super powerful highway with perfectly engineered safety features. Sounds great on paper. But the only question that really matters is, does it actually work? Oh yeah, it works. I mean, the proof is right here in the picture. On the left, that's the training for the old, unstable highway. It is a complete mess. See those spikes? That's the model having a total meltdown. Now look at the right. That is DeepSeek's version, mHC. It's perfect. A beautiful, smooth, stable ride all the way down. That catastrophic 3000x signal amplification? Gone.
tamed to a gentle 1.6x. The highway is finally safe to drive on.
But here's the real kicker. This isn't just about not crashing. The models actually get better. When they tested it, the mHC models consistently outperform the old designs by about 1 to 2% across major AI benchmarks. So you get total stability and a performance boost. It's the best of both worlds. So you're probably thinking, okay, what's the catch? This has to be super slow, right? Incredibly, no. Thanks to some really clever engineering optimizations under the hood, the extra computation is tiny. We're talking about a mere 6.7% increase in training time to get all of that stability and all of that extra performance. This isn't just a cool theory, it's a practical, efficient tool you can actually use. And all of this really points to something bigger. This isn't just some small, incremental improvement. This could represent a whole new philosophy for how we design the AI of the future. There's this great idea that constraint is freedom. And for a long time, the approach in AI was just to remove all constraints, let the model run wild and see what happens. But what mHC shows is that the opposite might be true. By adding smart, well-designed mathematical constraints, these guardrails, we can actually unlock the potential of even more powerful, more complex designs, safely. It's like building a safe, fenced-in backyard for a kid to play in. The boundary is what gives them the freedom to explore without getting hurt. This really feels like a shift away from what we could call brute force scaling. The old way of just making things bigger and throwing more and more computers at the problem, hoping for the best. Instead, this points to a new era of principled cultivation. It's a more thoughtful, more elegant approach. It's about using the power of math to carefully design architectures that are fundamentally better, safer, and way more efficient. So what does this all really mean? mHC might be more than just a new architecture. It could be a sign that we're entering a totally new era of AI development, an era where the biggest breakthroughs don't just come from building the biggest model with the most data, but from discovering the most elegant mathematical ideas to guide how they grow. It leaves you wondering, is the future of AI going to be won not by the biggest brawn, but by the sharpest brain?